Are you and Chandana starting?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Hi guys. Hello everyone, and welcome to our fun Zoom call today. Um, it's so lovely to have everyone together over here, just to engage after the amazing BU class that just happened in Delhi. Oh God, I think it's blown everyone's worlds. So, and what an amazing time to have you on with us, Julia, to talk and ask you questions. Yeah, it's just awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on with
Yeah,
us.
thanks for having me. Awesome. So
Can
what
I
are
jump
we?
into a question, please? Sorry, because I read about something you wrote and a Zoom that you did, and you've been on my radar ever since.
Sure, go for it.
That was a call you done about how you hate organizing.
Yes.
Can you just talk about that a little?
Well, do you have a specific question? It would just help me with what direction.
Yes, because what is it that you have the best of intentions when you begin to organize your shelf or your files in a computer, and after the first 5 minutes, your brain starts just sort of short circuiting, and you're like,
Yeah.
you're going to get away from it.
Yeah. Well, organization is a really interesting topic because so many of us were raised, I mean, so much of it has to do on the points of view that we grew up around with organization. And I grew up in a really messy, unorganized household. And I also know a lot of people who grew up in really tight, clean, perfect, organized households. And they're also rebelling against that because we attach it to other things. But I highly recommend getting this book. It's not even an access book, but I absolutely love it. It's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And it's by this lady, Marie Kondo from Japan. And she talks about how her life's mission has been to organize. And it's something that I've been asking about since I started Access, because it's not in my nature to not be tidy and organized. Like it's very difficult on me to have chosen a lifestyle that doesn't actually fit who I am as a being. So I really had been asking for years and years and years, what would it take to be more tidy and organized? But I was just never taught. And when you're not taught, I mean, you make yourself wrong for it as though it's your fault for not having an understanding of how to do it. But if nobody ever taught you, how are you ever supposed to know how? So we're doing this telecall now, and it's this 3-part series. And we just had the first call last week. The second call is later today. And the first call was so dark. I couldn't even believe what came up on it. I mean, it was like the points of view that we have in this area run so strong. I was totally floored, because it's like we resist actually creating our lives by holding on to clutter. So if you have a need to hold on to clutter, it's because you're not willing to generate and create your life. And we think that the clutter around us gives us control over things, but it doesn't. It actually just holds us back. And it's one of the ways that we like to stop ourselves.
Wow, that just sort of blew me away.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's Gary and Dane did a radio show called Clear the Clutter, Cut the Crap. And it's on my SoundCloud channel if you go have a look for it. If you go to soundcloud.com and type in Julia Sotas, it'll be on my page. I have a lot on my SoundCloud, a lot of radio shows and a lot of interviews. And that one is amazing because I always turn it on when I go to clean, and I've done so many clearings that have changed so much. I've ran my bars. I've had my bars run to the show Extreme Hoarders, which you can find on YouTube. Because when you are not willing to let go of things, it's because you don't believe that you have a future available and you're not willing to create that future. So really what it comes down to is actually creating the future. It has nothing to do with the clutter. It has nothing to do with the messiness. It's an unwillingness to create the future.
You
Right.
Julia, can I come in here?
so
Is
many,
that
you say such like, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna say this. You say these things that like blow my mind, like just so casually, like as though it's, by the way.
so true? So true. Yeah, absolutely.
And I forgot to say something which I'd love to add right now, if that's okay. I met you for the first time, Julia, at the 7 days in Langkawi, and then I actually got to spend time with you last year in Delhi in Jan. And I remember I had so many questions about mediocrity that time and how I was choosing so much of mediocrity in my life. And I say this so much in every class of mine, and I don't really know if I've ever acknowledged it to you directly, but like just spending time with you actually got me to notice and realize how much of mediocrity I was choosing, and also how much of no choosing I was choosing. And it's just thank you so much for being the person that you are. Just spending time being in your classes, being around you just makes all of us, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure each one of us who's like attended your class can say this, like there's so much stepping up that you invite people to, so thank you.
Cool.
I second that, Isha. Thank you so much, Julia. I have marked that the clutter SoundCloud thing. I went directly to your page and I've done it. And thank you.
Great. You're so welcome. Yeah, I mean, we all have such a different future that could be available to us, but most of us really would rather be mediocre than actually choose to be the space that we are, the royalty that we are, and not royalty from a judgment, but like the ability to be everything is such a gift, because when you're willing to be everything, you can hang out with the homeless person on the street and you can hang out with the queen, and it's like we have, I mean, usually humanoids are hedonists and are looking for this level of elegance and class and style and difference that most other people are not willing to have. And when we claim that we're different and we're willing to know that we're different and be that difference, it changes everything around us. And it's such a level of benevolence to others when you're willing to be you, because really nobody's being them. And so if you're willing to choose it and you're willing to be that difference, you show other people that it's a possibility, and they start looking at their lives different and looking at what they can create different. So, yes.
Wow, that's put so beautifully, Julia. Thank you for that. That was really awesome.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah. In fact, so much of that also stems into our way of creating money also, where we are wanting to create, and there's so much of that that confusion and that clutter and that it all kind of also goes,
that's one part of this course that I'm doing too, is the financial aspect.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you have like messes of, well, maybe in India you do. I was gonna say it's not like you have messes of money laying around the house. I don't know.
In India we do.
We don't have cupboards in America.
Yeah, in our drawers we have all the little change, and in our cupboards we have the big money, and then in our purses we have the mediocre paid number of
and
money.
in our banks we have the small money.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
This is the only group of people where I could say that and it would actually be true. But it's just so interesting because it's a really messy area. But the area that we use to create the most mess is the income part. And it's like everything else can be sorted and clean and clear with your money if the income part is everything that it can be. And what if you were willing to use everything that you are as a being to get everything you desire in life? And we don't think that way. We're not taught to be that way. We're taught to use the right things to create the right results, not to use everything that we be to everything that we desire. Look at this. Kumku is showing me her cupboard. Look at it. There's her cupboard. But we just believe that we are so limited, and it's so much easier to be limited, and we would rather judge ourselves to be on the right path. Even when you're doing access consciousness, it's not like we change our method. We still judge ourselves to make sure that we're doing access right, rather than letting go of all of that and going, you know what? I'm going to have an easier life than everybody else. And we won't have the ease-filled life. We'll always have to have the difficulty and the trauma and the drama and the, oh, I can't believe he did that to me.
The
rather
Bollywood
than
style.
Why me?
That's the Bollywood style.
That's totally Bollywood. I am such a victim.
Totally.
Yeah. But really, especially as women, it's our job to take the sword and go out and conquer the world and have the future. I mean, trust me, every woman is the head of the household.
Yeah.
Especially the more the man thinks that he is, that woman is probably even more in charge. But it is our job. It's more in our nature to actually go out and conquer and to have something different. And
Julia, I have a question there.
yes, the Chandanawa.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Yeah, the other Chandana. Well,
Other
yeah.
Chandana.
Yes. So you say, like, you say that we use the tools, but we still don't choose to actually have that kind beyond being mediocrity. So what is that thing, or what could we go out there and do to change that? Like,
Well, I mean, you have to get sick enough of being mediocre in order to change it. I mean, there's nothing that I can say or do that's going to change your mind. I can't give you a clearing statement or bless you with my magic wand. I mean, you have to desire it. It has to be more real to you than being mediocre. And it's not more real to most people to be great rather than being mediocre. It's just not a reality. It's not something most people are choosing. And so it's just something that you'll get to when you get to. If you get to it, and if you don't, then you'll die normal, and your tombstone will say, she was an average girl who lived a mediocre life.
It's almost like you have to get embarrassed of being mediocre, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's a conversation I had with Gary, because I was not having the kind of money that I was wanting to have. And I said, this is just embarrassing. Like, I hate this. I hate not being able to do and have the things that I want to do and have. And he said, when I was 50 years old, Julia, I went to my mother and I borrowed $4,000 from her so I didn't lose my house.
Wow.
And he said, at 50 years old, that was horrible. And he said, in that moment, everything changed, because I knew I was not going to go to my mother to ask her to bail me out so I didn't lose my house. And he's like, that's the day that everything changed. So it's not, I mean, there is a place for clearing statements, and there is a place, which we'll do lots of. And there's lots of that, but it's like, when are you going to get sick of not being everything you are? Because there's no clearing for that. There's no pill for that. You just have to get sick of it or change
It's almost
it.
like we wait. It's almost like we wait to hit rock bottom, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what most people do. I mean, they only change in an emergency situation. What if you had a different point of view? What if your life as it is right now was an emergency situation?
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I grew up poor. I mean, I didn't grow up poor. I shouldn't say that. I'm a farmer's daughter. I'm a farmer's daughter. But I knew, and my dad actually did very well as a farmer, and he was a smart farmer. He was a farmer with a very, very, very intelligent attitude but he dedicated his life to overcoming being a peasant. And he overcame being a peasant. And what if your life was not about overcoming obstacles? What if it was about creating something that only you have the ability to create? Because you have a different world and you have a different being and you have a different set of opportunities and things that you can create on the planet that nobody else even knows exists. It's not part of their being. It's not something they're capable of. And if you don't go out and create that, nobody will. It just will be void in the world. It won't exist. Nobody is going to do your thing. But my dad, he overcame that, and he chose a different life, a greater life for himself and a greater life for me. He made life easy on me. I mean, he paid for a lot of things that got me on my way in my future. But he never paid for access because he wanted me to make it on my own. And if he would have just kept supporting me, I wouldn't have had to step up and become what I am today and continue that. But it's like we all have a chance to have something different. I mean, I look at Dane's world and the energies of that. He owns different homes and a Ferrari, but it's beyond that. It's like he's this really, really powerful catalyst. Like he sees what is in people, and for those who choose it, he has an ability to inspire in them to be something different than what they're being now. And that's a potent catalyst. And he is willing to be that. And that's what's really makes life worth living, is the willingness to change something or someone, including yourself, from what they are now into something greater. And how many of you know that there is something greater available, but you're not willing to be different enough to be the catalyst of that? And the one of the problems is that we think that the difference is having the cars and having the houses and having the social status and having the cupboards of money, but it's not about that. Dane has all of those things because of the fact that he's willing to look at what is in people and allow it to be greater. And that's the only reason that the universe supports him in the Ferrari and in the first class and in the wealth and the luxury. If he wasn't the catalyst for people and things to become greater every day, then the universe wouldn't support him in those ways. So you can't put the cart before the horse. You can't look at, oh, I want to have this boyfriend, and I want to have this type of house, and I want to have these type of domestics, and I want to have this type of car, and I want to have this social status, and I want to have more and more and more, and I want to go on these trips, and I want to see these places, because it'll never happen if you do it from that place. You have to look at what you are and what energies you would really like to have. And you have to build that in yourself to the place where you can then be that for others. Because that's the only thing that really matters anyways to you as a being. I mean, you're not going to have any interest in all those other things anyways, because they only go so far. We all know that. So
There's a question in the chat.
Sure. Do you want to read it to me?
Yeah. Hema Bajaj, who also sent me a private message saying that she says, it's so amazing to see Julia. I am actually taking the call from a cinema theater. I so learned energy pulls from her. Total gratitude.
Cool.
And she's asking, what is mediocre? Sometimes I am so used to being normal that anything apart seems unimaginable. So how do I know I'm acting from mediocrity versus acting from simplicity?
There is no such thing as simplicity for an infinite being. Simplicity is a total farce. You wouldn't have a simple life. Life is about being dynamic and amazing and full and a constant space of change. It's never about simplicity. So give up the simplicity stuff. But I do have a clearing here that I want to read you guys about mediocre. How many of you refuse to have a definition of what you require to create in order to make sure you can be the same you are now without having to change anything and be different enough to create something different? And everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. And don't share that with anybody, Isha, because everybody needs to come back and re-listen to this call in order to extract their own clearing statement, because we are not going to spoon feed you. Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pot and pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. I'll read it once more. How many of you refuse to have a definition of what you require to create in order to make sure you can be the same you are now without having to change anything and be different enough to create something different? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, all nine, pot and pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Sanjeev says yes. Good. Fantastic. I'm glad at least Sanjeev agrees. And you need to run that, and you need to be that, and you need to choose that until it doesn't make your brains go blank anymore. Because the reason it makes your brains go blank is because everything in your entire life has been about the opposite of that. And that statement is the direct antithesis to everything that you've been taught. And so run it until you can be that, because everything is going in the opposite direction of that right now. Not everything. You guys have done some pretty amazing things. But we've also been taught a lot of really fucked up stuff our whole life. Okay? Life is not about what has been or what is. It's about a future. And, it's not about culture. It's not about Indian culture. It's not about being a man. It's not about being a woman. It's about something that's very, very different, where everything that actually works is included, and judgments don't have to live anymore. But you have to look at what judgments you like and what judgments you want to keep. And those are the ones that you really need to get rid of, because they destroy your future the most. I mean, what have you really decided you've gotten right? I had mentioned before that I was having this trouble with money at one time, and the other thing I realized is I had made a bunch of money and I decided I got it right. And when you decide you have something right, that is you telling the universe that you no longer require its support. So you need to let the universe know that you require its support. You need to talk to it. You need to say, hey, universe, you need to hook a brother or sister up here because I need your help. I can't do this alone. Okay? Don't ever think that you've got it right, or don't ever think that you don't need to keep creating, because then everything stops, and it's terrible. Trust me, I've been there. So look at it and go, okay, what do I require? What do I desire? And what am I capable of that I'm not choosing here? And I really, really need some support on this. I'm not going to force this into existence the way that I've been taught to force everything in existence since the day I started school. I'm going to do this a different way, a kinder way, an easier way, and a way that will actually allow things to work. Okay?
Wow.
Prerna says, going back to how Dane always, can't see it.
Do you want me to read it out?
Sure.
Going back to how Dane always functions from a space of contribution to others. How does one go about finding what contribution one can be? Is there a question you can ask or put it out to the universe to show it to you? Or is there something else here that I'm not getting?
Well, I mean, you're trying to define the contribution before you just ask it for and choose the contribution. I mean, there's no like, how does one go about finding a contribution? I mean, just start somewhere. Go to the soup kitchen. But it's not really about the soup kitchen type of thing. But if you're really interested in being a contribution, number one, you have to learn to receive. Because contribution, the definition of contribution is simultaneous gifting and receiving. So if you can't keep up your end of that by receiving, then forget about it. So how do you learn to receive? Get your bars run and force yourself to receive. When someone pays you a compliment, say thank you. Don't say, oh, this old dress. Say thank you. And don't try to take yourself to a lower level by not receiving a compliment. Allow yourself to be the space and the difference that you are by receiving it. When you say, oh, I got it on half price, or you say, oh, even if you just say, I got it at this store, don't tell people where you got it. Just thank them. Receive. Be the difference. Be the space. You don't need to give them the information to define you. When you say where you got the dress, then they can define you. You know, unless it's going to create something. Like I'll tell people where I got things to illustrate a story or to teach them how to buy better or things like that. But you don't need to always give yourself away. The elegance of silence will teach you how to receive.
The elegance of
Wow,
silence.
that is so beautiful.
Wow.
Oh my God. You have a way of blowing our universes. You know that, right?
Good. And it's not even lunch in America.
Oh my God. We are zonked. Totally. Wow.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for having me on today. We have another question?
Yeah, we have one last question.
Okay.
What's the best way to receive myself?
Well, I just described it. Go back and listen. Everything that I just said, listen to this 5 times and you'll have a better idea. Okay? And receive people do this to me all the time. I'll say exactly what they're asking for and they'll say, do you have anything else? And I'm like, that's what you're asking for. You're asking to receive more. I've just gifted you, and instead of receiving it, you want something better. But that's what we do. We don't see what we have. We don't use what we have. We don't take what we have and make it into the greatest thing possible. We ask for something else. And that doesn't work. You have to receive what you have and what you are and use that. Not wish you were somebody else or something else or had the right car or chauffeur or dress or any of it.
Wow.
Okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am just so excitedly waiting. It's like, oh my God, Can we just have you in India tomorrow?
I know.
Have to wait till July.
I was drinking tea. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to come to India. I miss it. It's really, really time that we come. It's been a year. It'll be a year and a half by the time we come. And my tea supply is running low. I had the masala chai yesterday, and I had the green tea, and they just don't make tea like that anywhere in this part of the world, in the Western world. It's just, there's such a magic, and I'm just so excited to come. And Sanjeev is saying, come to Mumbai, Julia. Oh, I would like to come to Mumbai. Yeah. So anyways, I'll be in India in July, and I will take your bum and I will drag it wherever it needs to be dragged. No, you'll have to drag it yourself. But really, whatever is possible and available for you, I mean, just look at what you're capable of, and what the future can be if you'll have it. Or you can just be like your mom for the rest of your life. Whatever works for you.
Well, no pun intended.
Except for Isha and Noor, of course.
No, not at all.
That would be an honor.
Not at all. Wow, and it's so exciting. The very name of the class, Julia, if I can just throw it in here.
Yes, please.
I love the name of the class that you're doing in Delhi. So everyone who's pulling Julia to Mumbai and Pune, can we pull you guys to Delhi instead?
I think that's a much better idea, since that's where I'll be.
Yeah.
It's also getting live streamed online, so you can always attend it from Bombay online. In case you'd like to be in Bombay also.
Yes.
Julia,
Awesome.
one last question. Could you talk a little bit about the sex? What is that called? The sex you know is possible.
We are also having a one-day class on sex. That's sort of a pre-intro. I'm not going to talk about sex now because we finished, but yeah, that's just an area that can be so different than it is on planet Earth. And I see a very different world available in that area, and a much kinder and lovelier and greater place than it is now. And so I'm really looking forward to this class, because I would like to invite you all to a different world, not the world that you think you may be looking for, but a world without judgment in that area, where things can just be easier and greater. So that's all I'll say about the sex class right now.
Yeah, and we do have a prereq for that class, right? The foundation is a prereq?
It is, yes. You have to have taken the foundation for that class. There's no prereqs for the money class, but for that class, it's a little more, you need to have a little bit more under your belt, just because that's such an intense area. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Isha and Chandana, for being such wonderful hosts today.
Thank you for being on,
you.
Julia. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye, Sanjeev. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
See you
everyone.
soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
friends.
for being
Thank
here.
you, everyone, for joining us and making this exciting. Bye. And see you all in Delhi. So, Isha, what are the dates? Do you remember?
I will in a second.
Bye-bye.
It's in.
Sanjeev. Hang on.
No. It's going to be in July.
July
24th, 25th, or 26th?
July 26th to the 28th is the money class.
And July 20th.
And July 25th is the sex you know. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
So if you need any help for us from our side to coordinate your stay, make it comfortable or anything at all, just reach out. We are right here. All right.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.